Okay, so I did reproductive rights and women's health, and I picked the this topic because I liked the Supreme Court case in 1972, Roe versus Wade, and so I'm just going to go ahead and begin here with a little bit of background on the legalization of the birth control pill. It was um, kind of first coined by a lady named Margaret Sanger, uh, who opened the first birth control clinic in Brooklyn in 1914. She made uh, she started the American Birth Control League, which is basically like a beginning to Planned Parenthood. And in 1954, Frank Rock and Gregory Pincus conducted the first human trials of birth control, and by just 3 years later, by 57, the FDA approved it for severe menstrual disorders. However, just 3 years after that, it was now legal for contraceptive use in 1960. Okay, but once it was made legal, just 1 year after, 400,000 American women were using the birth control pill already at this point. Just 2 years later, in 1962, we had 1.2 million American women on the pill, and 5 years later, we had almost 6.5 million American women. So this was a really big hit in the 1960s. Okay, let's jump a little bit into the legalization. So, like I said, it became very popular but very controversial. However, it was still illegal in 8 states, even though it was FDA approved. And Planned Parenthood had quite a few restrictions on who they would give out birth control to. They had a requirement that you had to be married, which was kind of strange because usually if you might be in the situation, you might not want to be married. Okay, so Planned Parenthood would give cheap birth control to minorities, and they would give it cheaper than to someone that could actually pay for it. And so a lot of African Americans felt kind of ashamed in a way because Planned Parenthood was targeting them, and they considered it a type of genocide, which was not good for the look of the abortion pill and Planned Parenthood in general. And a Supreme Court case that kind of advanced this birth control is Griswold versus Connecticut in 1965. It has to do with the Comstock law that Connecticut had that prohibited basically the selling or distributing of any contraceptions over the internet. So Griswold took this court to took this case to court, and then ended up winning. And the court said that you have a right to privacy, and that you can't, the government can't intrude on who's using or buying contraceptives at this point in time, since it is legal. And this case was kind of a premise for the big case that I'm going to talk about in Roe versus Wade. But first, I'm going to let Walter Cronkite, a very highly esteemed journalist, report on what the decision was.
Good evening. In a landmark ruling, the Supreme Court today legalized abortions. The majority in cases from Texas and Georgia said that the decision to end a pregnancy during the first 3 months belongs to the woman and her doctor, not the government. Thus, the anti-abortion laws of 46 states were rendered unconstitutional.
I think these two court cases show that women's reproductive rights are completely up to them and them only, because it is their body. And I think it is proven constitutionally by these two court cases that, in fact, they do rule themselves. And especially during a time like the 1960s, I felt like this was very strong for women at the time to have their own voice in society. This was big for them to finally have something where they could say, this is my body and this is what I want to do, and no one could stop them. And it was tried and tried again, but it was continually shut down. And I feel like this was a big a step forward for women in our society.